Hey, Sean Curry again, coming to you with another video. This time this video is entitled, Why Do Photographers' Business Fail? I came across a very interesting article that I found online, written by a guy by the name of Dane Sanders. And in this article, he talks about how 85% of all photography businesses usually end up failing. Within the first year, he kind of notes this in his book that is called The Fast Track Photographer. But in that book, he says within the first year, 60% of those who go into the photography business usually end up giving up on their business. So that's the first year. Then he says in year 2, of the remaining 40%, an additional 25% in that number, they give up, which leaves a mere 15% of those who started out 2 years ago, now going into year 3, actually continue to go forward with their business. So if you made it past year 2 and into year 3, congratulations. But let's not get too excited because there still is a lot of work to do. So today, in this video, I've done some research to try to find some information that will help me understand why photographers usually end up closing shop so early or, 2-3 years down the line. So sit back, relax. I'm going to take you on a little journey. We're going to talk about it. And hopefully you can find some of this information that will be helpful, that will help you stay focused as you thrive to build your particular photography business and take it to the next level. Now, I'm going to go over about 10 different items with some points, and in no necessarily specific order of greater value to less value. It's just the way it was written and came out. So sit back, relax. This will probably be a 2-part video because I don't want to labor too long and bore you, right? But it's some great information, and let's get going. There's a lot of factors that actually goes into the reason why photographers fail. And the first thing we want to talk about is not investing and putting in the time needed to succeed in the business. It seems obvious, right? But with that, the return on investment is a very important thing. Business talk about the ROI, and as well as in photography. If your return on your investment is lackluster, you're not really putting in the time and the energy that's required, right, to help sustain where you want to be. On the backside of that, you're going to find yourself not really getting the return that you want and not being able to move to the point you want to move to because you haven't really taken the time to help your business be successful. You have to put the time in. And with that being said, where there's a lack of determination, if you're not determined, if you don't have a laser focus to stay on task, to start something, because a lot of times it's going to take time to get there. And again, within the first year, right, we're going to go back to that again, about 60% of those who start out, they quit because perhaps whatever, things weren't going the way they thought it would go, but it didn't go that way. And also, under this year, not investing in time needed to succeed. When I was really doing a lot of YouTube research and looking at videos, because we all kind of go into that little rabbit hole of YouTube videos, I saw some of these photographers who said, hey, I started my business 6 months ago, and I've been at it for a year now, and I've reached 100K in the first year of business. And I sat back and said, oh my goodness, what are they doing that I'm not doing to reach $100,000 in revenue? But I figured this out pretty quick. That Cinderella story, it's not the norm. And when we try to compare ourselves to what someone else is doing, it really puts us back into a position where we feel like I must be doing something wrong. Why are they succeeding? They're making $100,000 in their first year. How many LeBron James are there? How many Michael Jordans are there? Out of all of the professional athletes, you know how many don't get to that plateau that they are? That's the elite status. But that doesn't mean There aren't AA leagues. There doesn't mean that there aren't other minor league players who are making great money at the same thing that they're doing. So don't get caught up in that trap where you're thinking, if I'm not making $100,000 a year, $90,000 a year in the first year, the first 2 years, first 3 years, I must be doing something wrong. Remember, determination and longevity all goes into not investing in the time needed to get to where you want to be. It takes patience, and let's be real, it also takes what I've known as the 2 E's, which is education and economics. Without education and economics, here's the truth, you really can't do much. You have to be educated and you need finances. Photographers, you start your business because you're looking at a way to earn some revenue. But without the education put in place, how would you get to that next level? Now, some people are fortunate and they have unlimited amount of funds. So they have the luxury of not having to rush the process to get to where they want to be. But as far as the education piece, I've joined a couple different platforms, Sue Bryce being one of them, the Portrait Masters. Also, I've attended WPPI for the last, matter of fact, coming up this year will be the 4th time attending WPPI, where I've gone and sat in different classes, learned from some of the best leaders in the industry. And that's a great way of going to educate yourself and getting the finances in place. So that's the first point I want to talk about. The second point is practice, practice, practice. We've heard it said before, practice makes perfect. Well, I want to kind of edit that, because my belief is practice doesn't make perfect. What practice does, practice makes improvements.
That's what I'm talking
and
about.
Those improvements, incrementally speaking, will show up in your work. The more you practice, the more it shows up in your work. The better and more efficient you get at that thing, whatever it is. If it's off-camera flash, if it's constant light, if it's natural light, if it's shooting with gels, if it's shooting with LED panels, optical snoots, so on and so forth. The more you practice, the better you will get at it, and the improvements will be made, and eventually that is what will show up in your work and catch the ideal client's eye, because they'll say, that's exactly the look I'm looking for. Another professional photographer I follow is Lindsay Adler. Lindsay, she has like a play day, like once a month, where she gets with her makeup artist, her stylist, and they have fun just playing around, creating, working on different lighting techniques. And with that being done, with those different techniques that she has fun playing, exploring things, she comes up with some other great ideas, which eventually she shows on her platform. She shows these items on her educational platform. And she's kind of said, by doing a practice shoot, a fun day, we were able to book clients based on us enjoying ourselves. And that is putting time into your craft. So practice, practice, practice. Doesn't make perfect, but it does make improvements. The next thing, it takes time to get there. And I also have a subtopic to that, is my son wanted an iPhone. Let me explain. So my youngest son, when he wanted to get a phone, he started working his first full-time job, and we're going to go back at least 20 years ago. Well, maybe not 20 years ago, maybe at least 17 years ago. We're going to go back that long. And he wanted a phone, got a job working, so I took him to Best Buy in the town next to where we live, because at the time we didn't have one here in my town. So we go into Best Buy, and he's looking at all the phones, and the first thing he sees a brand new iPhone. I forget what it is. Could have been an iPhone 4. Who knows? Going back that far, right? But he goes, Dad, I want this one. I want this one. So he looked at the price tag and everything and saw how much it cost. And he was like, well, I want this one. And I said, well, son, you know what? You can't afford that right now. You just started out. So you need to get some time in working. And the more time you spend working, the more income you're going to make, and then eventually you'll be able to afford the more higher end phones and things like that. So same thing with us as photographers. Coming into the business, it takes time to get to some of the levels that we see some of the photographers here on YouTube. The brand new camera comes out. they got it. The latest and greatest lens, they have it. Sponsorship, monetized, people line up to get into their studio, they have it. But when you start out, again, it's going to take time to get to that level. And if you give up before you cross over, then you don't know, you could have given up on your dream. Okay, the next point I want to talk about is something I call not telling the world. And what I mean by that is, whenever we go out in public, it doesn't matter if we're at the grocery store, at the library, on the job, if we're still working, right? Not just saying that you only have this as a business, but let's say you have a part-time job, or photography is part-time, and you have a full-time job. But in your day-to-day interactions, your neighbors next to you, you go to your favorite restaurant, the server that you see every time. You go down to Jersey Mike's and get a sandwich, the people you see in Jersey Mike's. You run across people every day. And if you're not telling them, oh, you know, I'm a photographer and I specialize in shooting whatever your genre of photography is, and you let them know this is what I do. And you may have, we all have smartphones, and on our phones, I'm sure we may have our Instagrams, our Facebook pages. If we have those, we can pull those out and show, look, here's some of my work, and I would love to have the opportunity to photograph you and your mother, you and your dad, or come and do that wedding of yours, whatever it might be. This is what I do. We have our portfolios. So look, at the end of the day, what we have to understand is that we are the best advocate for our brand. Matter of fact, we are our brand. When people see us, they see our brand. What we say, it's our brand speaking. We're the biggest advocate for our brand. Not some ad on Facebook, not some photograph on Instagram. And posting, I found this out. Sue Bryce taught this here, and I'm sure she's not the originator of it, but I heard it from her first. Posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, it's not marketing. That's just sharing a photograph. Marketing is sitting down, talking with someone and asking them, hey, how about you come shoot with me? How about you come to my studio and what can we do to get you into my chair? You know, that's actually interacting and speaking with someone. Yeah, those things, those avenues of posting, they're a snapshot in the big picture, but it's not marketing. But being our advocate for our business, we should be the ones who are out there every opportunity we get, telling the world, this is what I do. And I'd love to have the opportunity to come and photograph you or your family. So again, we tell the world, right? Tell them, this is what I do. People who are confident in what they do, they tell it, right? So we have to have the confidence, not arrogance, but confidence of, this is what I do, and I would love that opportunity to share it with you. So going to the next point that I want to share with you, the next point is this: understanding everyone is not your client. That's another reason why businesses fail, photography business, because you figure, hey, I marketed, I reached out to this person, we had a phone conversation, we had a consultation, but they never called back. Believe me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there more than once. I've had other photographers, I was going to do a second shoot for a wedding photographer, and this individual had said, yeah, definitely, and I was brutally honest and said, look, I haven't shot second shot for weddings, but I understand how to use a camera. I know my way. I've been shooting this and that. And this individual said, okay, yeah, definitely. We'll go on ahead and we'll get together and schedule it. I was ghosted. And that was from a photographer. I've had clients who reached out to me and said, yeah, I want to schedule something with you. And then, you reach out and you go back and forth. You send over contracts and things like that. They tell you this is an elaborate event. It's going to be this and that. We're having a DJ. We're having a band. We're having sit-down dinner. So you're thinking, okay, you send the contract over and you think you're good to go. And then after you submit your information, next thing you know, it's, well, no, I wasn't looking to pay this or to pay that. And you get ghosted. Or, so you get the inquiries and then nothing happens after it. So I found out that everyone's not your client. I had a friend tell me that, he's a business owner, and we were talking one day, and he goes, yeah, everyone's not your client. And that became it took the pressure off me to think, well, maybe I'm not doing something correct. Maybe my sales presentation wasn't strong enough, or it wasn't, to the point that it needed to be. But it just made me realize, yeah, everyone's not my client, and that's okay. But one thing I do know, there is an ideal client for you, and your client they will see what you do and say, this is the person who I want to do X, Y, Z for me. So everyone's not your client. So don't trip. Don't think it's something you did or didn't do. It's just that every one of us, when we go out in public and we go shopping, we all look for the best value for our money. And it's okay if we decide, I'm not going to buy over here, but I'm going to go spend my money over there. That's okay. And that's our choice as consumers. And even in the photography business, remember, it's a consumer, but it's an equal exchange. I'm going to give you a product in exchange for monetary compensation. So I built value in what I'm doing. The product I have is superior product. So there's the value in that. And it takes someone who recognizes value to see value, not to question value. And they go on and say, this is a fair exchange of my hard-earned dollars for the product I'm getting from you as a photographer. So don't think that you did something wrong. And the thing about it, what's funny about it, there's times where you may actually encounter someone who wants you to be their photographer, but because there's this thing called chemistry, if you don't have chemistry with the person and you realize that going into the consultation, they may not be a good fit for you. And you may say, this is not going to work out for us. So again, understanding everyone's not your client takes the pressure off of you when that sales call, you can't close it, but that's okay. That one came in, another one's coming. Remember, patience, motivation, longevity. This isn't a sprint, it's a nice walk.